Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The golden years lie. Here is a statistic that should keep you awake at night. 58 million working-age Americans currently have exactly $0 saved for retirement. Zero. For the rest, the picture isn't much better. Recent Federal Reserve data suggests the median retirement account balance for Americans aged 55 to 64 is roughly $185,000. If you follow the standard 4% rule, that nest egg generates just $7,400 a year in income. That is not a retirement plan. That is a poverty trap. We are currently living through the end stages of a massive economic experiment that started in the early 1980s, the shift from the defined benefit pension, where your company took care of you for life, to the defined contribution 401k, where you are entirely on your own. The experiment has largely failed. It turned millions of teachers, engineers, and nurses into amateur pension fund managers, expecting them to navigate complex tax codes, sequence of returns risk, and actuarial longevity tables without any training. And now, as the largest generation in history enters their golden years, we are realizing that the tools they were given, the simple calculators, the rule of thumb advice, are woefully inadequate. You are watching this because you suspect that the free retirement calculator on your bank's website is lying to you. And you are right. It is. The promise. Over the next 10 videos, we are going to dismantle the confusion surrounding retirement planning software. We are not just going to list apps. We are going to reverse engineer the engine of a secure retirement. We are going to evaluate the best tools on the market, from the free aggregators to the professional-grade auditing software previously only available to wealth managers. But before we can tell you what to use, we have to explain what you are looking for. Most people don't know they need a tool that handles Roth conversion ladders until they are hit with a massive tax bill at age 73. Most people don't know they need Monte Carlo simulations until a market correction in their first year of retirement wipes out 15% of their portfolio and destroys their long-term viability. By the end of this series, you will have a specific, actionable tech stack to manage your wealth. You will move from hoping you have enough money to knowing exactly where you stand. The calculator trap. Why average kills portfolios. To understand what makes a retirement tool best in class, we first have to look at the failure of the standard tools. Go to almost any major brokerage website right now, and you will find a calculator that asks you 3 or 4 questions. How old are you? How much do you have saved? What is your expected annual return? This third question, what is your expected annual return, is the most dangerous question in personal finance. Let's say you type in 7%, because that is the historical average of the S&P 500 after inflation. The calculator then draws a straight line, compounding your money by exactly 7% every single year for 30 years. It shows you a beautiful, smooth curve ending in millions of dollars. Real life does not move in straight lines. If you retire the year the market drops 20%, like it did in 2008 or 2022, and you are simultaneously withdrawing money to pay for your mortgage and groceries, you are digging a hole that a mathematical average cannot fix. This is called sequence of returns risk. If you lose 20% of your portfolio, you need a 25% gain just to get back to even. But if you withdrew 4% of that portfolio while it was down, you now need a 30% or 40% gain just to recover. A linear calculator completely ignores this. It assumes volatility doesn't exist. The best tools, the ones we will be reviewing in this series, do not use averages. They use Monte Carlo simulations. A Monte Carlo simulation does not run your scenario once. It runs it 1,000 or 10,000 times. It simulates the Great Depression. It simulates the dot-com crash. It simulates the stagflation of the 1970s. It creates a probability cloud. Instead of saying you will have $1.5 million, a good tool says, you have an 84% probability of not running out of money if you live to age 92. This distinction is critical. If a tool tells you success, but it hasn't stress-tested your portfolio against a bear market occurring in the first 5 years of your retirement, that tool is useless. The hidden inflation, healthcare and taxes. The second massive failure of standard planning, and a key feature we will look for in our top-tier tools, is the differentiation of inflation. Standard tools assume a flat inflation rate, usually 2% or 3% for everything. But if you are a US resident, you know that is not how the economy works. Technology might get cheaper, but healthcare does not. Historically, healthcare inflation in the US outpaces general inflation (CPI) by a factor of 1.5 to 2. In your 70s and 80s, healthcare becomes one of your largest expense categories. A tool that inflates your medical costs at the same rate as your grocery bill will drastically underestimate how much money you need in your final decades. Then there is the tax bomb. Many US residents have done a great job saving in tax-deferred accounts like 401(k), S, and traditional IRAs. They see a balance of $1 million and think they have $1 million. They do not. They have a partnership with the IRS. When you turn 73 under current laws, the government forces you to start taking money out. These are called required minimum distributions, or RMDs. If you have a large tax-deferred balance, these RMDs can push you into a higher tax bracket, trigger surcharges on your Medicare premiums, known as IRMAA, and increase the taxes on your Social Security benefits. A simple spreadsheet cannot calculate this. It requires a dynamic tax engine. The best tools on the market allow you to model Roth conversions. This is a strategy where you voluntarily pay taxes on some of your money in your 60s, when your income might be lower, to avoid those massive forced distributions in your 70s. If a retirement tool cannot visualize the difference between taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free buckets, and if it cannot model the tax brackets of the future, it is not a planning tool. It is a toy. The psychology of the exit. Finally, we have to address the psychological shift. For 40 years, you have been in accumulation mode. Your dopamine hit came from seeing the account balance go up. Retirement is decumulation mode. Now you have to sell assets. You have to see the balance go down. This is terrified for most people. Feels like failure. The best tools provide a safe withdrawal guardrail. They don't just tell you what to do today. They give you rules for the future. They tell you, if the market drops 15%, cut your spending by $400 a month. If the market rises 20%, you can take that vacation to Italy. This dynamic adjustment is what allows you to sleep at night. It replaces anxiety with a system, setting the stage for the masterclass. In this series, we are going to review tools ranging from free verified calculators to subscription software costing $100 to $500 per year. We will judge them on flexibility. Can it handle real estate income, pensions, and side hustles? Tax intelligence. Does it understand federal and state tax brackets? Scenario planning. Can you toggle what if I die early? Or what if Social Security is cut by 20%? User experience. Is it easy enough to use that you will actually update it? We are doing this because the financial industry often thrives on your ignorance. They want you to believe that this is all too complicated for you to understand, so you must pay them 1% of your assets every year to manage it for you. On a $1 million portfolio, that is $10,000 a year. Compounded over 30 years, that fee could cost you 1/3 of your retirement wealth. The right software can empower you to audit your advisor or replace them entirely. We are about to hand you the keys to your own financial freedom. But first, we need to look at the entry-level contenders. The free tools. Are any of them actually worth your time? Or are they just lead generation magnets for sales calls? In part 2, we dive into the free tier. We will test the most popular free calculators from the biggest financial websites, and I will show you exactly where they break. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The cost of free. Welcome back. In part 1, we exposed the danger of relying on averages. Now we are stepping into the minefield of the free tier. We all love free. Free shipping, free trials, free advice. In the digital age, we have been conditioned to believe that software should cost $0. But in the financial services industry, the adage remains undefeated. If you are not paying for the product, you are the product. When you type retirement calculator into a search engine, you are bombarded with sleek, user-friendly widgets from the biggest names in banking, insurance, and media. They look helpful. They look authoritative. And for the vast majority of them, they are designed to function as lead magnets, not analytical engines. Let's strip the paint off these tools and look at the machinery underneath. The widget problem. A case study. Imagine a hypothetical couple, Bob and Linda, both 55 years old. They have accumulated $800,000 in a traditional 401k. They own a home. They want to retire at 65. They visit a popular financial news website and find a free retirement calculator. They input their numbers. Current age 55. Retirement age 65. Savings $800,000. Annual contribution $20,000. Expected return 7%. The calculator spits out a green check mark. It says, "Congratulations! You will have $1.8 million at retirement, providing $72,000 a year until age 95. Bob and Linda high-five. They feel secure. They stop worrying. This calculator has just failed them in 3 catastrophic ways. Failure point 1. The straight line spending fallacy. The first failure is the assumption of linear consumption. Most free calculators ask for a single input. How much do you need per month in retirement? Bob and Linda guessed $6,000 a month. The calculator assumes they will need exactly $6,000 a month, adjusted for inflation, every single month from age 65 to age 95. This is biologically and sociologically false. Retirement spending does not look like a straight line. It looks like a smile. Phase 1 is the go-go years. This is ages 65 to 75. You are healthy, you have energy, and you finally have time. You are traveling, you are dining out, you are renovating the kitchen. Your spending in these years is often higher than your pre-retirement spending. Phase 2 is the slow-go years. Ages 75 to 85. You travel less. You eat in more. 1 car replaces 2. Your discretionary spending naturally drops. Phase 3 is the no-go years. Age 85 plus. Mobility decreases but healthcare costs explode. Assisted living, in-home care, and medical specialists drive spending back up vertically. The free calculator modeled a straight line. It underestimated the cash flow shock of the go-go years, potentially causing Bob and Linda to drain their portfolio too fast in the danger zone of the first decade. It also underestimated the medical inflation of the no-go years. By smoothing out the data, the tool hid the volatility of real life. Failure point 2. The tax blindness. The second and perhaps most dangerous failure of the free tier is tax blindness. In our example, Bob and Linda have $800,000. But where is it? It is in a traditional 401k. The free calculator sees $800,000 as $800,000 of spending power. It is not. That money belongs to the IRS. Bob and Linda are just holding it. Every dollar they pull out is taxed as ordinary income. If their effective tax rate in retirement is 22%, that $800,000 is actually only $624,000 of purchasing power. Now imagine their neighbor, Teddy. Teddy also has $800,000, but his is in a Roth IRA. The free calculator treats Bob and Teddy exactly the same. Tells them they have the same retirement outlook. But in reality, Teddy is significantly wealthier than Bob because his $800,000 is tax-free. Most free tools, especially the simple web widgets, do not distinguish between pre-tax, Roth, and taxable brokerage buckets. They lump everything into savings. This creates a massive illusion of wealth for people with heavy 401k balances. You might be planning a retirement based on a gross number, but you will be living on a net number. If your tool doesn't subtract the government's cut automatically, you are flying blind. Failure point 3. The Social Security oversimplification. Then we have the Social Security integration. Most free tools ask, how much do you expect from Social Security? Or they estimate it based on your current income. They simply add that monthly amount to your cash flow starting at age 65 or 67. This misses the strategic complexity of the decision. For a married couple, the difference between a suboptimal claiming strategy and an optimized one can be over $150,000 in lifetime benefits. A simple calculator does not analyze survivor benefits. If Bob was the high earner and he claims early at 62 to get some cash flow, he is permanently locking in a lower benefit check. If he dies at 78, Linda is left with that reduced survivor benefit for the rest of her life. A robust tool would run a break-even analysis. It would show Bob that if he delays until 70, he maximizes the survivor benefit for Linda, acting as a form of longevity insurance. Free calculators rarely offer this level of nuance because it requires complex coding and actuarial data. They just want to give you a quick number and move you to the Contact an Advisor page. The freemium aggregators. A step up but still flawed. Now, not all free tools are simple widgets. There is a second category, the aggregators. These are platforms like Personal Capital, now Empower, or the planning tools inside Fidelity or Vanguard. These are significantly better. They link to your actual bank accounts. They see your real asset allocation. They can see that you are 90% in stocks and warn you that you are too aggressive for your age. However, you must understand the business model here. These tools are loss leaders. They cost millions of dollars to develop and maintain. Why give them away? Because they are data vacuums. They analyze your portfolio to find wallet share. If you link an outside account, they can see you have $500,000 with a competitor. Their algorithm flags this. Suddenly, you might get a phone call or an email about a portfolio review. Furthermore, their projections often default to assumptions that favor their products. A brokerage-based tool might assume that active management yields better results than passive indexing, subtly nudging you toward managed funds with higher expense ratios. They are useful for tracking net worth. They are useful for seeing all your accounts in one place. But as planning tools, they often lack the granular control you need to model specific life events. The lumpy expense reality. Real life is lumpy. You need a tool where you can input. In 2028, we need $30,000 for a daughter's wedding. In 2032, we need $40,000 to replace the roof and the HVAC system. In 2035, we want to buy a vacation condo. Free tools generally do not allow for these one-time irregular outflows. They force you to smooth everything into a monthly average. But a $40,000 outflow in a down market year can destroy a portfolio's longevity. This is the sequence of returns risk we discussed in Part 1, amplified by irregular spending. If you cannot model the lumps, you are not modeling reality. The verdict on free. So, are free tools useless? No. They are excellent for accumulators. People in their 20s, 30s, and 40s who just need to know if they are saving enough. At that stage, the specific tax brackets of the year 2050 don't matter as much as the raw savings rate. But if you are within 10 years of retirement, if you are in the red zone, relying on a free calculator is like trying to land a jumbo jet using a smartphone app. The stakes are too high and the variables are too complex. You have one shot at this. You cannot simply go back to work at age 82 because the widget didn't account for a change in tax law. You need professional-grade power. You need the ability to toggle variables, stress test specific years, and optimize tax strategies. Until recently, this kind of software cost thousands of dollars and was only available to financial advisors who kept it behind a curtain. They would print out the reports for you, but they wouldn't let you touch the controls. That has changed. A new class of software has emerged. The prosumer tier. These are tools built for the obsessionally detail-oriented individual who wants the power of a professional advisor without the 1% fee. These tools cost money, usually a subscription fee, but the value they provide in tax savings alone can pay for 10 years of the subscription in a single afternoon. In Part 3, we are going to open the hood of the market leaders in this space. We are going to look at tools like New Retirement, now Bolden, Maxify, and Prolana Gold. We will examine exactly what you get for your money, and I will show you a specific feature in one of these tools that saved a user over $200,000 in projected lifetime taxes. You cannot afford to miss this. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The prosumer revolution. Welcome back. In part 2, we diagnose the fatal flaws of the free calculators. They are linear, they are tax blind, and they exist primarily to sell you something else. Now we enter the solution space. We are entering the era of the prosumer. This is a portmanteau of professional and consumer. In the world of photography, a prosumer camera gives you the manual controls of a cinema rig without the 5-figure price tag. In the world of retirement planning, prosumer tools give you the actuarial engines used by wealth management firms, but with a user interface designed for you, not a banker. These tools, platforms like New Retirement, recently rebranded as Bolden, Maxify, and Pralana Gold, operate on a fundamentally different business model. You pay them a subscription fee, usually between $100 and $200 a year. In exchange, they do not sell your data, and they do not try to sell you mutual funds. Their only product is the math. And the math is where the magic happens. The $200,000 epiphany. A case study. Let's look at the specific case study I promised in the last video. This highlights the tax alpha capability that separates prosumer tools from the free widgets. Meet David, a 62-year-old hypothetical software engineer. David has done everything right. He has $2 million saved. The vast majority of it, about $1.8 million, is in a traditional 401k because he wanted the tax deduction while he was working. David plugs his numbers into a free calculator. It says, "You are safe. You can spend $80,000 a year." David plugs his numbers into a prosumer tool like Bolden or Pralana. The software instantly flags a catastrophic inefficiency. The tool visualizes his future tax brackets. It shows a massive spike in tax liability starting at age 75. Why? Because of required minimum distributions, RMDs. The government forces him to withdraw a percentage of that $1.8 million every year, whether he needs the money or not. The software calculates that between age 75 and age 90, David will be forced into the 24% or 32% tax bracket. Furthermore, these forced withdrawals will increase his modified adjusted gross income (MAGI), which triggers IRMAA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount. This effectively doubles his Medicare premiums. The free tool ignored this. It treated every dollar as equal. The prosumer tool offers a solution: the Roth Conversion Explorer. This feature runs thousands of iterations to solve a complex math problem. How much money should David voluntarily move from his traditional IRA to a Roth IRA right now, in his 60s, to minimize his lifetime tax bill? The tool suggests David convert $60,000 a year for the next 7 years. Yes, he pays taxes on that money now. That hurts. It feels counterintuitive to pay the IRS early, but the software shows the long-term chart. By paying 22% tax now on those conversions, he reduces the RMD time bomb later. The software projects that this strategy saves him $214,000 in total taxes paid over his lifetime. That is a $200,000 return on investment for a $120 software subscription. This is not market alpha, where you try to beat the S&P 500. This is tax alpha, and it is the single most controllable variable in your retirement plan. Economics versus accounting. The Maxify approach. Not all prosumer tools think alike. While some focus heavily on taxes, others focus on consumption smoothing. Take Maxify, for example. This tool was built by Lawrence Kotlikoff, a renowned economist. Most tools operate on accounting logic. They ask you, "What is your budget?" But what is your budget? Is a flawed question. You don't know what your budget should be. You're guessing. Maxify operates on economic logic. You input your assets, your liabilities, and your constraints, and the software tells you what your standard of living is. It calculates your discretionary spending floor. It effectively says, based on your desire to not run out of money until age 100, and based on these market conditions, you can safely spend $5,400 a month. If you try to spend $7,000, it warns you that you are stealing from your future self, specifically your 85-year-old self. This reverses the planning process. Instead of you telling the software what you want, the software tells you what is possible. This creates a psychological guardrail. It prevents lifestyle creep in the early years of retirement. It answers the question, can I afford that new car? Not with a vague guess, but with a concrete impact on your long-term annual spending allowance. The Excel powerhouse, Pralana Gold. Then there is the tool for the engineers, the people who love spreadsheets. Pralana Gold. This tool runs on Excel, but it is Excel on steroids. It is arguably the most granular personal finance tool available to the public. While the user interface is dense and looks like a cockpit, the control is absolute. Pralana allows for line item tax form modeling. It doesn't just estimate your taxes. It practically fills out a hypothetical Form 1040 for every year of your life. It handles complex scenarios like the windfall elimination provision, WEP, for public servants, or detailed rental real estate depreciation schedules. Why does this granularity matter? Because retirement is often decided at the margins. A generic tool estimates state taxes. A tool like Pralana allows you to model moving from California to Texas in the year 2028, selling your primary residence, realizing the capital gains exclusion, and reinvesting the proceeds. The difference between a generic 5% state tax estimate and the actual reality of that move could be tens of thousands of dollars. Pralana captures that. The hidden value, the what-if sandbox. The true power of the prosumer tier, however, isn't just the initial plan. It is the ability to play what if. Life is unpredictable. A static financial plan is dead the moment it is printed. These tools allow you to create dynamic scenarios. Scenario A. We retire at 62. Scenario B. We work one more year. In a prosumer tool, you can duplicate your base plan, change the retirement age from 62 to 63, and instantly see the ripple effect across 30 years. You might discover that working just one extra year increases your safe monthly income by $400 for the rest of your life. Why? Because that 1 year allows your portfolio to compound without withdrawals, it adds one more year of savings, and it delays your portfolio drawdown by 12 months. Seeing that number, $400 a month for life, changes your psychology. It makes the decision to keep working tangible. It's not just working longer. It's buying a $400 monthly annuity. The data linkage dilemma. One critical feature to look for in this tier is account aggregation versus manual entry. Tools like Bolden allow you to link your accounts via APIs like Plaid, just like the free tools. This keeps your plan up to date automatically. However, many power users in this space prefer manual entry. Why? Because it forces you to be intentional. When you have to type in your balance, you are engaging with your money. It also removes the security risk, however small, of linking your life savings to a third-party platform. The best prosumer tools give you the choice: Live Sync for convenience, or manual entry for privacy and control. The trade-off. Is there a downside to these tools? Yes, the learning curve. These are not set-it-and-forget-it apps. To get the value out of a tool that models Roth conversions and tax brackets, you have to understand what a Roth conversion is. You have to be willing to input data about your cost basis. You have to verify your Social Security earnings record. Garbage in, garbage out. If you input the wrong cost basis for your taxable brokerage account, the tax modeling will be wrong. The tool requires you to become financially literate. But that is exactly the point. By learning the tool, you learn the trade. You stop being a passive passenger in your financial life and start becoming the pilot. The next frontier. Stress testing reality. We have covered taxes. We have covered consumption smoothing. We have covered the incredible value of avoiding RMD mistakes. But even the best tax plan in the world can be destroyed by one thing: a catastrophic health event. Standard planning assumes you live, you spend, you die. But what happens if you need long-term care for 5 years? What happens if one spouse passes away early, cutting the household Social Security income in half, but the expenses don't drop by half? Most people are terrified to look at these numbers. But the best tools don't just look at them, they stress test them. In Part 4, we are going to enter the dark scenarios. We are going to use these tools to model the things nobody wants to talk about: long-term care, early death, and hyperinflation. And I'm going to show you how a guardrail strategy can save you from ruin, even when the worst happens. You think you are prepared? Let's find out. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The War Room. Welcome back. In Part 3, we built the engine. We optimized your taxes, we smoothed your consumption, and we found hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential savings. The plan looks perfect. The charts are green. Now we are going to break it. Welcome to the stress test. This is where the best retirement planning tools separate themselves from the toys. Anyone can plan for a sunny day, but retirement is a 30-year voyage across an unpredictable ocean. You will face storms. If your planning software cannot model a catastrophe, your plan is fragile. And in retirement, fragility is fatal. We are going to look at the 3 dark scenarios that destroy portfolios: the widow's penalty, the long-term care cliff, and the inflation spiral. Then, I will show you the guardrail strategy that allows you to survive them. Scenario 1. The widow's penalty. Let's return to our case study couple, Bob and Linda. They are 65. The standard calculator assumes they both live to 90. They have 2 Social Security checks coming in and a nice 401k balance. But statistically, men die earlier than women. Let's assume Bob passes away at age 74. Linda lives to 94. This triggers a financial phenomenon known as the widow's penalty. It is a brutal mathematical squeeze that catches millions of survivors off guard. First, the income shock. When Bob dies, the household loses the smaller of the 2 Social Security checks. If Bob was getting $3,000 and Linda was getting $1,500, the $1,500 check disappears. The household income drops instantly by 33%. However, household expenses do not drop by 33%. Linda still has to heat the same house. She still pays the same property taxes. She still needs internet and insurance. The rule of thumb is that expenses for a survivor only drop by about 10% to 20%. So, income is down 33%, expenses are down 15%. That is the gap. Where does the money come from to fill it? The portfolio. Linda has to withdraw more from the 401k to survive. And here is the trap: the tax bracket shift. Bob and Linda were filing jointly. They had a wide standard deduction and wide tax brackets. When Bob dies, Linda becomes a single filer, starting the next tax year. The standard deduction is cut in half. The tax brackets compress. An income of $100,000 for a married couple puts them in the 12% or 22% bracket. An income of $100,000 for a single person can easily push deeper into the 22% or 24% bracket. Linda is now paying higher taxes on less income, while being forced to withdraw more from her portfolio to cover the Social Security gap. A basic free calculator cannot model this. It just runs to age 90 for both. The best tools, the ones we are analyzing, allow you to kill a spouse in the simulation. You toggle Bob dies at 74. Suddenly, the 100% success rate drops to 65% success rate. The tool shows Linda running out of money at age 86. This is terrifying, but it is valuable, because now you can plan. Maybe Bob needs to buy a life insurance policy. Maybe they need to do more Roth conversions now, while they are still filing jointly, to leave Linda with a tax-free bucket of money. You cannot fix this problem at the funeral. You have to fix it in the software today. Scenario 2. The long-term care cliff. The second stress test is the one everyone ignores because it is unpleasant. Long-term care, LTC. Data suggests that 70% of people turning 65 will need some type of long-term care service. The average duration is 3 years. The average cost of a private room in a nursing home is currently hovering around $100,000 to $120,000 per year. That is a $300,000 to $400,000 expense that hits at the very end of your life. If you are doing mental accounting, you might think, oh, I have $500,000 in home equity, I'll be fine. But let's put that into the software. In a robust tool like Bolden or Prolana, you can add a one-time expense event. We input age 85 to 88, medical expense $9,000 per month, inflation adjusted at 5%. When you run this simulation, you often see a portfolio failure. Why? Because at age 85, your portfolio has already been depleted by 20 years of living. You might only have $400,000 left. If you drain $300,000 in 3 years for care, you leave the surviving spouse with zero. The best tools allow you to model hybrid policies or self-insurance. They let you create a LTC reserve fund, a bucket of money that is excluded from your spending calculations, specifically earmarked for this event. If the software tells you that you can't afford to set aside that reserve, you know today that you need to look into insurance products or Medicaid asset protection trusts. Scenario 3. The inflation spiral. The third scenario is the silent killer. Inflation. Standard tools assume a flat 2.5% or 3% inflation rate. But as we saw in the early 2020s, inflation spikes. What happens if you retire in a year where inflation hits 8%, followed by 5%, followed by 4%? Your purchasing power is permanently impaired. You have to withdraw significantly more money just to buy the same groceries. The prosumer tools allow you to run variable inflation scenarios. You can test. What if inflation is 5% for the first 5 years of my retirement? This creates a compounding disaster. If you increase your withdrawal by 8% in year 1 to match inflation, you are pulling more shares out of the market. If the market is down at the same time, which often happens during high inflation, you are selling low. This is the sequence of returns risk on steroids. The solution? Dynamic guardrails. So, the software shows you that if Bob dies early, or if you need a nursing home, or if inflation spikes, you go broke. Now what? Do you just give up? No. You install guardrails. This is the most advanced feature to look for in a planning tool. It is based on the research of financial planners like Jonathan Guyton and William Klinger. Traditional planning uses static spending. You decide to spend $60,000 a year, adjusted for inflation no matter what. Dynamic guardrails change the rules. The software sets boundaries. The capital preservation rule, the lower guardrail the tool tells you. If your portfolio withdrawal rate rises above 5.5% because the market crashed, you must cut your spending by 10% next year. The prosperity rule, the upper guardrail the tool tells you. If your withdrawal rate drops below 3.5% because the market is booming, you can give yourself a 10% raise. This transforms the output of the software. Instead of giving you a binary pass/fail score, it gives you a probability of adjustment. A static tool says, you have a 20% chance of running out of money. A dynamic tool says, you have a 0% chance of running out of money, provided you are willing to cut your spending during the 3 bad market years projected in the simulation. This is empowering. It tells you exactly what to do when the storm hits. It replaces panic with a protocol. When evaluating software, look for the ability to model discretionary versus essential spending. You split your budget. Essential food, heat, taxes, insurance. Discretionary travel, gifts, dining out. The software then runs the simulation with a rule. In a bad market, cut discretionary spending to 0, but keep essential spending funded. If the tool can prove that your essential spending is safe even in the worst-case scenario, early death plus LTC plus crash, then you have won the game. You can spend your discretionary money without guilt, because you know the foundation is unshakable. The next step. The engine room. We have built the plan. We have stress-tested the plan. We have installed the guardrails. But a plan is just a piece of paper or a digital dashboard, until it is fueled by capital. Where do you actually put the money? I don't mean by Apple stock. I mean the architectural structure of your portfolio. Most people think asset allocation is just stocks versus bonds. But for a U.S. resident, there is a third dimension, asset location. Should your bonds be in your IRA or your brokerage account? Should your high-growth stocks be in your Roth or your 401k? Get this wrong and you create a tax drag that acts like a hole in your fuel tank, leaking 1% to 2% of your returns every year. Get it right and you generate free money just by reorganizing where your assets sit. In Part 5, we are going to open up the investment strategy tab of these tools. I'm going to show you how to use software to optimize your asset location, potentially adding hundreds of thousands of dollars to your estate without taking a single ounce of extra risk. You are going to want to see this. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The only free lunch left. Welcome back. In Part 4, we survived the crash. We stress-tested your plan against early death and long-term care. Now we are going to build wealth. In the world of finance, there is a famous saying that diversification is the only free lunch. That is technically true, but for a U.S. resident navigating the complex IRS tax code, there is a second free lunch. It is called asset location. Do not confuse this with asset allocation. Asset allocation is the pie chart. 60% stocks, 40% bonds. Asset location is the map. Which account holds the stocks and which account holds the bonds? Most investors and most basic retirement calculators ignore this completely. They practice what is called the mirror strategy. If they want a 60-40 portfolio, they put 60% stocks and 40% bonds in their 401k. They put 60% stocks and 40% bonds in their Roth IRA. They put 60% stocks and 40% bonds in their taxable brokerage. They mirror the strategy across every account. This is a mathematical disaster. It is akin to buying a Ferrari and using it to tow a boat while using your pickup truck to race on the track. You have the right vehicles, but you are using them for the wrong jobs. By simply reorganizing which asset sits in which account, research from heavyweights like Morningstar and Vanguard suggests you can add between 0.7% and 0.75% to your annual after-tax returns. That might sound small, but on a $1 million portfolio compounded over 25 years, that 0.75% efficiency gap is the difference between having $1 million left for your heirs or having $1.5 million. That is $500,000 of free money, created just by putting things in the right boxes. But you cannot do this in your head. And you cannot do it with a spreadsheet unless you are a wizard with macros. You need the right software. The three-bucket problem. To understand what to look for in a tool, you must understand the three-bucket tax physics. Bucket 1. Tax-deferred, traditional 401k/IRA. The math here is, you get a tax break now, but you pay ordinary income tax on everything that comes out later. The trap. Ordinary income rates are high, up to 37%. You do not want your highest growth assets here if you can avoid it, because you are effectively giving the government a share of that massive growth. However, this bucket is great for slow-growing, income-generating assets like bonds, because it shields you from paying taxes on that interest every year. Bucket 2. Tax-free Roth IRA/401k. The math here is, you pay tax now, but everything grows tax-free forever. The trap? Putting safe, low-yield bonds in here. Why? Because tax-free growth is the most valuable real estate in your financial life. If you fill it with bonds earning 4%, you are wasting the tax-free space. You want your highest octane, highest potential growth assets here, like small-cap stocks or emerging markets. If they triple in value, the IRS gets zero. Bucket 3. Taxable brokerage. The math here is, you pay tax on dividends and interest every year, and you pay capital gains tax when you sell. The trap. Putting high turnover funds or high-yield bonds here. You will be bled dry by annual taxes. You want tax-efficient assets here, like broad index ETFs that rarely sell shares, or municipal bonds. The case study. The mirror mistake. Let's illustrate this with a case study. Meet the Millers. The Millers have $1 million. $500,000 in a traditional IRA. $500,000 in a Roth IRA. They want a 50-50 portfolio, stocks versus bonds. Scenario A. The mirror, the lazy way. They put $250,000 stocks/$250,000 bonds in the IRA. They put $250,000 stocks/$250,000 bonds in the Roth. Fast forward 20 years. Stocks grow at 8%. Bonds grow at 4%. The bonds in the Roth IRA grew to roughly $550,000. That is tax-free. The stocks in the traditional IRA grew to roughly $1.15 million. When they pull that stock money out of the IRA, they owe the IRS roughly 25%, assuming tax rates. That is a tax bill of nearly $290,000 on that growth. Scenario B, the location optimization, the smart way. They put the full $500,000 of bonds in the traditional IRA. They put the full $500,000 of stocks in the Roth IRA. Total portfolio allocation? Still 50-50. Risk profile? Identical. Fast forward 20 years. The bonds are in the IRA. They grew to $1.1 million. When the Millers withdraw this, they pay tax. The stocks are in the Roth. They grew to roughly $2.3 million. This $2.3 million is 100% tax-free. By simply swapping the location, they shifted the bulk of the growth into the tax-free bucket. They successfully hid the gains from the IRS legally. What to look for in software? This sounds great in theory, but managing it is a nightmare. Stocks go up and down. Bonds stay flat. Your 50-50 allocation drifts. You have to rebalance. If you sell stocks in your Roth to buy bonds, you break the strategy. You need to rebalance across accounts. When evaluating retirement tools, you must look for account-specific rate of return, or asset class tagging. 1. The average return red flag. If a tool asks you for one global expected return, e.g., 6% on your whole portfolio, reject it. It cannot model asset location. It treats your Roth and your IRA as mathematically identical. 2. Granular growth rates. The best tools like Prolana Gold or the advanced settings in Bolden allow you to specify, my IRA is invested in bonds, earning an expected 4%. My Roth is invested in equities, earning an expected 8%. My brokerage is 50-50, earning 6%. When the software runs the Monte Carlo simulation with these distinct inputs, the results are drastically different. You will see that the optimized location plan lasts 5 to 7 years longer than the mirrored plan. 3. Tax-adjusted asset allocation. Here is a concept that usually breaks people's brains, but the best software handles it for you. If you have $100,000 in a Roth and $100,000 in a traditional IRA, do you have a 50-50 split? No. The Roth is worth $100,000 to you. The IRA is worth roughly $75,000 to you, after the government takes its 25% cut. So you actually have $175,000 of purchasing power, and the Roth represents 57% of your wealth, not 50%. Sophisticated planning tools calculate your tax-adjusted allocation. They show you that you might be taking more risk than you think because your safe assets bonds are in the IRA, which is devalued by taxes. 4. Future rebalancing logic. This is the holy grail. Some top-tier tools allow you to simulate future trades. You can tell the software, every year sell enough bonds in the IRA to cover my RMDs, but let the stocks in the Roth ride. This creates an equity glide path, where your portfolio actually gets more aggressive in the Roth account as you age, acting as a longevity hedge, while the IRA drains out. The execution gap. Now a warning. Software can simulate this perfectly, but you have to execute it. The psychological difficulty of asset location is high. Why? Because eventually one account will look like a genius, the stock-heavy Roth, and one will look like a loser, the bond-heavy IRA. You will log into your IRA and see slow growth. You will feel the urge to fix it. The software serves as your anchor. It reminds you that the IRA is supposed to be the boring anchor, so the Roth can be the sail. The yield shield. One final feature to look for in the investment section of these tools is the ability to model dividend versus capital gain taxation. In a brokerage account, you pay taxes on dividends every year. You only pay capital gains when you sell. Good software allows you to input the turnover rate, or yield, of your investments. If you input a high yield like a REIT or a corporate bond fund, inside a taxable account simulation, the software should show your wealth dragging due to annual taxation. This visually proves to you why you should move that asset to an IRA. The next horizon. We have optimized your taxes. We have stress-tested your life. We have reorganized your portfolio for maximum location efficiency. You are now squeezing every drop of efficiency out of your assets. But there is one asset we haven't optimized yet. It is likely the largest single asset on your balance sheet, yet most people treat it as an afterthought. It's not your house. It's not your 401k. It is your human capital annuity, Social Security. For a married couple, the difference between a good guess and a mathematically optimized claiming strategy can exceed $200,000 in lifetime income. And unlike the stock market, this income is inflation-adjusted and guaranteed by the federal government. But the rules are labyrinthine. In Part 6, we are going to tackle the Social Security optimization engines inside these tools. I will show you why the break-even age calculation is a lie, and how to use software to build a bridge to maximum benefits. This is the $200,000 check you simply have to pick up. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The $1 Million Invisible Bond. Welcome back. In Part 5, we reorganized your portfolio to squeeze out hidden tax alpha. Now we turn our attention to the sleeping giant of your retirement plan. If I told you that you had a bond portfolio worth $800,000 hidden in your basement, you would probably pay a lot of attention to how it was managed. You would check the interest rates. You would read the fine print. That bond is your Social Security. For a high-earning couple in the United States, the net present value of their lifetime Social Security benefits often exceeds $1.5 million. Yet, the vast majority of Americans treat the claiming decision with the same level of rigorous analysis as ordering a sandwich. They simply claim it when they retire. Most free calculators enable this laziness. They ask, "What age will you retire?" You type 65. They autofill your Social Security start date as 65. This is financial malpractice. The difference between a suboptimal claiming strategy, usually claiming early at 62, and an optimized strategy, usually delaying until 70, is not pennies. It is an 8% annual increase in your benefit for every year you wait past your full retirement age. There is no risk-free asset on planet Earth that pays a guaranteed 8% return. The stock market doesn't promise that. Real estate doesn't promise that. But the US Treasury does via your delay credits. However, delaying creates a cash flow canyon. You stop working at 62, but the check doesn't arrive until 70. How do you eat for 8 years? You need a tool that can build a bridge. The break-even lie. Before we look at the software features, we have to delete a concept from your brain: the break-even age. Every basic calculator and helpful brother-in-law will tell you to run a break-even analysis. It goes like this. If you claim at 62, you get smaller checks for longer. If you claim at 70, you get bigger checks for shorter. The lines cross at age 80. So if you think you'll die before 80, take the money and run. This is mathematically sound if and only if you are strictly trying to maximize the total dollars received from the government. But retirement planning is not about beating the government. It is about not running out of money. You do not buy homeowners insurance hoping your house burns down, so you can break even on the premiums. You buy insurance to protect against the catastrophic loss. Social Security is longevity insurance. If you die at 74, your financial plan was successful anyway because you didn't live long enough to spend your savings. You don't need the extra insurance. But if you live to 103, that is the catastrophic financial event. That is when your portfolio is empty. That is when an inflation-adjusted, maximized Social Security check is the only thing standing between you and destitution. The best retirement tools do not emphasize the break-even date. They emphasize longevity protection. They show you that by delaying, you are essentially buying an annuity that pays out exactly when you need it most in your extreme old age. The bridge mechanic. What to look for. So, how do you fund the gap? You need a tool that can model the Social Security bridge. This strategy involves intentionally spending down your 401k or IRA balances aggressively between age 62 and 70 to pay for your living expenses. This feels terrifying. You are watching your life savings drop while free money sits unclaimed. But a robust prosumer tool like Bolden or Maxify visualizes the magic of this trade. You lower your RMDs. By spending the 401k down early, you reduce the balance subject to required minimum distributions later. This lowers your future tax bill. You maximize the guarantee. You are effectively selling volatile assets, stocks/bonds, to buy a guaranteed inflation-protected annuity, Social Security. When evaluating software, look for a Social Security Explorer that integrates with your withdrawal strategy. A bad tool treats them as separate tabs. A good tool says, if we delay filing until 70, we need to increase 401k withdrawals by $45,000 a year for 8 years. Let's run the Monte Carlo simulation on that scenario. Often you will see the success rate of your plan jump from 85% to 95% just by building this bridge. The survivor trap, the higher earner rule. Now let's look at the killer app feature for married couples. Social Security rules for couples are complex. When one spouse dies, the household loses the smaller check. The survivor keeps the larger check. This means the higher earner's benefit is not just their benefit, it is the survivor benefit. Let's imagine a case study. Jack and Diane. Jack was a high earner. His benefit at age 70 would be $4,500. At age 62, it is $2,500. Diane was a lower earner. Her benefit is $1,500. If Jack claims at 62 because he wants his money now, he locks in a $2,500 check. If Jack dies at age 75, Diane is left behind. Her $1,500 check disappears. She steps up to Jack's $2,500 check. Total household income, $2,500. Now imagine the software optimizes this. The tool tells Jack, you wait until 70. Jack claims $4,500. If Jack dies at age 75, Diane steps up to the $4,500 check. Total household income for the widow, $4,500. That is a $2,000 monthly difference for the rest of Diane's life, solely determined by when Jack filed paperwork. Jack isn't waiting for his benefit. He is waiting to buy Diane a life insurance policy. The best tools visualize this explicitly. They allow you to toggle the death of the higher earner and see the immediate impact on the survivor's cash flow. If a tool cannot model survivor benefit step-up, it is useless for couples. The public servant problem, WP/GPO. For millions of U.S. residents, teachers in certain states, police officers, firefighters, federal employees, Social Security is a minefield. If you have a pension from a job where you did not pay Social Security taxes, you are subject to the Windfall Elimination Provision, WEP, or the Government Pension Offset, GPO. These provisions can slash your Social Security check by up to 50%. Most free calculators have no idea this exists. You type in your estimated benefit from your statement, and the calculator assumes you get it. Then you retire, the WEP hits, and you are short $500 a month forever. Top-tier tools like Prolana Gold and the paid version of Bolden have specific toggles for WEP/GPO. You enter your non-covered pension amount, and the software automatically calculates the penalty according to the complex IRS formula. If you are a public servant, this feature is non-negotiable. The solvency switch. Finally, we have to address the elephant in the room, the trust fund. According to the latest trustees report, the Social Security Trust Fund reserves may be depleted in the mid-2030s. Under current law, if that happens, benefits would be automatically cut to match incoming tax revenue, a cut of roughly 20% to 25%. A true stress test requires you to look at this possibility. Advanced tools offer a solvency cut toggle. You can ask, what happens to my plan if my Social Security check is cut by 25% starting in the year 2034? For many, this turns a green plan red. But once it is red, you can fix it. You might decide to save an extra $500 a month now to self-insure against that potential congressional failure. The tax torpedo visualization. One last critical feature to look for is the interaction between Social Security and your taxes. Social Security is not taxed like normal income. It creates a phenomenon called the tax torpedo. For certain income ranges, every $1 you withdraw from your IRA causes 85 cents of your Social Security to become taxable. This creates an effective marginal tax rate that can spike to 40.7% or even 49.95% for middle-income retirees. The best tools display a marginal tax rate chart that highlights this torpedo. It shows you the danger zones, income levels you should avoid. By seeing the torpedo, you can dodge it. You might withdraw slightly less from your IRA to stay under the threshold, or withdraw significantly more to blast through it to a lower bracket on the other side. You cannot navigate this without a map. The next asset. We have now secured your income floor. We have optimized the bond portfolio in your basement, but we still have a massive variable to deal with. For most US retirees, their net worth is dominated by one illiquid, expensive, emotional asset: the house. It requires taxes, insurance, and maintenance. It traps equity that earns 0% cash flow. Is your home a retirement asset? Or is it a retirement liability? In Part 7, we are going to look at housing wealth. We will evaluate how the best tools model downsizing, relocation, and the controversial strategy of reverse mortgages. Can you use your house to save your portfolio? The answer might surprise you. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The prison of equity. Welcome back. We have optimized your portfolio, your taxes, and your Social Security. Now we must confront the physical structure surrounding you. For the average American retiree, the primary residence represents roughly 45% to 60% of their total net worth. You might be sitting in a house worth $900,000. You feel wealthy, but in the cold calculus of retirement planning, that house is often not an asset. It is a liability. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out. Your house demands property taxes. It demands insurance. It demands a new roof every 20 years and a new water heater every 10. It is an inflation-adjusted expense machine that you happen to sleep inside. This creates the classic house-rich, cash-poor dilemma. You have a net worth of $2 million, but $1 million of it is trapped in drywall and lumber, earning 0% interest while you struggle to pay for groceries. Standard retirement calculators treat your home as a static number on a balance sheet. It sits there until you die, and then it goes to your heirs. The best retirement tools, the prosumer class, treat your home as a dynamic lever. They allow you to model the liquidation of lifestyle. The downsizing arbitrage. Let's look at the first lever, downsizing. Most people view downsizing as an emotional decision. The kids moved out, the stairs are too hard on the knees. But financially, it is an arbitrage trade. Let's use our case study couple, the Millers. They live in a suburb of Boston. Their house is worth $1.2 million. It is paid off. A free calculator ignores this equity. It just looks at their $600,000 IRA. With only $600,000 in liquid savings, their plan fails. The calculator says they will run out of money at age 78. But the Millers use a prosumer tool like Bolden or Prolana Gold. They create a relocation event. They model selling the house at age 70. Sale price, $1.2 million. Selling costs, 6% commissions plus closing fees, $72,000. Net proceeds, $1.128 million. They model buying a condo in a lower cost area for $550,000. This unlocks $578,000 of tax-free cash, thanks to the Section 121 capital gains exclusion. They inject this $578,000 into their brokerage account. Suddenly, their liquid portfolio doubles. Their probability of success jumps from 40% to 98%. But the best software goes deeper. It doesn't just model the cash injection. It models the expense reduction. By moving from a 3,000 square foot colonial to a 1,500 square foot condo, the software allows the Millers to reduce their housing expense category by 40%. Lower heating bills, lower taxes, no landscaping fees. This double impact, increasing assets while decreasing expenses, is the most powerful move in retirement planning. If your tool cannot model a specific sell/buy event with distinct transaction costs and expense adjustments, it is blinding you to your most effective escape hatch. The arbitrage play. Now let's layer on the geography. In the US, where you live determines how fast your money burns. If the Millers move from Massachusetts, income tax approximate 5 to 9%, to Florida or Tennessee, 0% state income tax, they give themselves an immediate raise. Top-tier tools include state tax modeling. When you input a relocation scenario in Prolana Gold, you specify the destination state. The software automatically updates the tax engine for future years. It calculates that their withdrawals from their traditional IRA will no longer be subject to state tax. This saves them 5% on every dollar they spend for the next 20 years. Furthermore, robust tools allow you to adjust the cost of living multiplier. If you move from New York City to rural Alabama, your grocery and service costs drop. The software lets you input a cost of living adjustment of -15% starting in the year of the move. This geo-arbitrage can sometimes do more for a retirement plan than saving an extra $500,000. But you have to see the numbers to believe them. The software provides the proof. The controversial buffer. Reverse mortgages. Now we enter the danger zone. The reverse mortgage. Historically, these products, home equity conversion mortgages or HECMs, were sold by late-night TV ads to desperate people. They have a stigma. They are viewed as a last resort for the broke. However, academic research from financial planners like Wade Pfau suggests that for the mass affluent, the HECM is actually a volatility buffer. Here is the strategy, and here is how to look for it in the software. It is called the standby line of credit. You set up a HECM line of credit at age 62. You do not borrow money. You let the line sit there. The unique feature of a HECM is that the unused line of credit grows over time, regardless of the home value. Then the crash hits. The S&P 500 drops 30%. If you are following a standard plan, you have to sell your stocks while they are down to pay for food. This locks in losses and destroys your portfolio. But if you have the HECM buffer, you switch sources. The best software allows you to set a rule. If the portfolio return is negative, source spending from home equity. You borrow from the line of credit to pay your bills for 2 years while the market recovers. Once the market is back up, you sell stocks at a profit to pay off the line of credit. This strategy shields your portfolio from sequence of returns risk. It uses the house as a shield. When evaluating tools, look specifically for HECM modeling or home equity line of credit integration. Does the tool allow you to borrow dynamically based on market conditions? Does it calculate the accruing interest on the loan balance? Does it show the impact on your net worth, which will drop, versus your liquid cash flow, which will survive? In Bolden, for example, you can specifically model a reverse mortgage as a funding source. You can see the loan balance grow exponentially, the danger, while seeing your investment portfolio survive the crash, the benefit. It allows you to make an informed decision. Am I willing to erode my children's inheritance by $200,000 in home equity to ensure I don't run out of money at age 85? Usually the answer is yes. But you need the chart to prove it. The renter by choice. Finally, there is the radical option. Selling to rent. Many retirees hold on to the house because they fear rent increases. And they are right to be afraid. However, the math sometimes favors renting. If you sell a $1 million home and invest the proceeds at a conservative 5% return, that generates $50,000 a year in income. If you can rent a luxury apartment for $3,500 a month, $42,000 a year, you are actually making a profit by renting and you never have to fix a toilet again. But the risk is rent inflation. A static spreadsheet assumes rent stays flat. A prosumer tool allows you to apply a specific inflation rate to the rent expense category, say for percent per year. It then battles the two forces, the growth of your invested home equity versus the growth of the landlord's rent. You can run the simulation. What if rent doubles in 15 years? The software might show that even with doubling rent, the liquidity provided by the $1 million investment makes the plan safer than keeping the illiquid house. The next crisis, the body. We have now unlocked the equity in your walls. We have turned your home from a tomb into a battery. Your plan is looking robust. You have cash. You have tax efficiency. You have a location strategy. But there is one expense category that defies standard inflation. It doesn't grow at 3%. It grows at 6% or 7%. And unlike a vacation, it is not optional. It is the only category that gets more expensive the older you get, exactly when your ability to generate income is lowest. Healthcare. In the US, once you hit 65, you enter the maze of Medicare. Parts A, B, D, and G. Advantage plans versus Medigap, and the dreaded IRMAA tax, a surcharge that can strip thousands of dollars from your Social Security check if you accidentally withdraw too much money from your IRA. Most people plan for healthcare by guessing $500 a month. In Part 8, we are going to stop guessing. We are going to use the software to precision engineer your healthcare costs, and I will show you how to avoid the IRMAA cliff that catches retirees by surprise every single year. This is the expense that bankrupts the unprepared. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer: the following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The myth of free healthcare. Welcome back. In Part 7, we unlock the equity in your home. Now we must spend it. There is a pervasive myth in the United States that once you turn 65, healthcare becomes free. You get your Medicare card and the financial bleeding stops. This is dangerously false. Fidelity Investments estimates that a typical 65-year-old couple retiring today will spend approximately $315,000 on healthcare costs in retirement. And that number does not include long-term care. That is just premiums, copays, and deductibles. If your retirement planning tool lumps healthcare into your general living expenses category and inflates it at 3%, your plan is built on sand. Medical inflation behaves differently than the price of milk or gasoline. Historically, it has outpaced the Consumer Price Index, CPI, by a factor of 1.5 to 2. While technology makes televisions cheaper, it makes healthcare more expensive. New drugs, new procedures, and labor shortages drive costs vertically. When evaluating a prosumer retirement tool, the first thing you must audit is the expense granularity. A basic tool asks, what are your monthly expenses? A superior tool separates expenses into general living, inflating at 2.5%, and medical, inflating at 5% or 6%. Over a 30-year retirement, that differential compounding is massive. A $500 monthly medical expense inflating at 5% becomes $2,160 a month by age 95. If you modeled it at 2.5%, the tool predicts it would only be $1,000. That is a $1,100 monthly shortfall in your frailest years. Multiplied by 12 months, you are suddenly short $13,000 a year just for staying alive. The Medicare maze and the donut hole. But inflation is just the baseline. The real complexity comes from the structure of Medicare itself. You have Part A hospital, Part B doctors, and Part D drugs. Then you have the choice between original Medicare with a Medigap policy, Plan G or N, or a Medicare Advantage plan, Part C. A sophisticated planning tool like Prolana Gold or Bolden allows you to model these specific premiums. Why does this matter? Because of the donut hole in Part D drug coverage, though legally changing, the cost structure remains volatile, and the out-of-pocket maximums. In a bad health year, you might hit your out-of-pocket maximum in January. You need a tool that can run a chronic illness scenario. You toggle a switch. What if one spouse develops a chronic condition at age 70 requiring specialized drugs costing $4,000 a year out of pocket? The software instantly recalculates your probability of success. It might show that while you can afford the drugs, the extra withdrawals force you to sell assets in a down market, triggering a death spiral for the portfolio. The IRMA cliff, the surcharge on success. However, the single most important feature to look for in this section, the feature that pays for the software subscription 100 times over, is the IRMAA monitor. IRMAA stands for Income-Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. It is a surcharge, a tax effectively, on your Medicare Part B and Part D premiums. And it is nasty because it is not progressive. It is a cliff. Here is how it works. The government looks at your modified adjusted gross income, MAGI, from 2 years ago. This is the look-back rule. For 2024, a married couple with income up to roughly $206,000 pays the standard premium of about $174.70 per month per person. But if that couple earns $206,001, they cross the cliff. Suddenly their premium jumps. They pay an extra roughly $70 per month per person. That is an extra $1,680 a year for the household, triggered by one single dollar of income. If they go higher, say they sell a rental property or do a massive Roth conversion and show for $100,000 of income, they can hit the top tier. They could be paying over $590 per person per month. That is nearly $14,000 a year just for Medicare premiums. Most free calculators are completely blind to this. They assume the standard premium forever. The OOPS case study. Let's look at a case study of an unforced error. Meet Tom and Jerry. They are 64 years old. They decide to do a Roth conversion of $50,000 to save on future taxes. They calculate their tax bracket. They stay within the 22% federal bracket. They think they are smart, but they forgot the look back. This $50,000 of extra income pushes their magi over the IRMAA cliff. Because they are 64, this income dictates their premiums at age 66. When they turn 66, they get a letter from the Social Security Administration. Their Medicare premiums have spiked. They effectively paid a surcharge tax of thousands of dollars that they didn't anticipate. The effective tax rate on that Roth conversion wasn't 22%. When you add the IRMAA penalty, it was closer to 35%. They would have been better off not converting, or converting $1,000 less. What to look for in the software? The best tools, the ones we are championing in this masterclass, have a dedicated IRMAA dashboard. It looks like a heat map. It shows your projected magi for every year of your life. It overlays the estimated IRMAA brackets, adjusted for inflation. It throws up a warning flag if you are within striking distance of a cliff. For example, the software might say, "Warning, in 2026, your projected income is $204,000. The estimated IRMAA cliff is $206,000. You are $2,000 away from the danger zone. Do not realize any extra capital gains this year." Or conversely, it might say, "You are $30,000 below the next cliff. You have headroom. You can do a $25,000 Roth conversion for free." In terms of IRMAA impact, this is precision navigation. It turns a generic retirement plan into a tactical flight plan. The HSA, the triple tax unicorn. There is one account that acts as a magic shield against these healthcare costs. The Health Savings Account, HSA. It is the only account in the U.S. tax code that offers the Triple Crown: tax deduction on the way in, tax-free growth, tax-free withdrawal for qualified medical expenses. Standard tools treat the HSA like a checking account. They assume you put money in and spend it immediately on doctor visits. Prosumer tools treat the HSA like a stealth IRA. The optimal strategy, which advanced software can model, is to not spend the HSA money now. You pay for your medical costs out of pocket using cash. You let the HSA invest in the S&P 500 and grow for 20 years. Then, at age 75, when health costs explode, you use this massive tax-free honeypot to pay for long-term care premiums or nursing costs. When evaluating software, check the distribution order settings. Can you tell the software, "Do not touch the HSA until age 80"? Can you tell it, "Prioritize HSA growth over 401k growth"? If the tool forces you to drain the HSA first, last in, first out, it is destroying your tax efficiency. You want the ability to sequence your withdrawals manually. The Roth IRA as a healthcare hedge. We also need to revisit the Roth IRA in the context of healthcare. Why is the Roth so powerful here? Because Roth withdrawals do not count as income for IRMAA. Let me repeat that. If you need $50,000 for a surgery, and you pull it from a traditional IRA, that is $50,000 of taxable income. That spikes your magi. That triggers IRMAA. It makes your premiums go up next year. If you pull that $50,000 from a Roth IRA, your magi is unchanged. Your premiums stay flat. This is why Roth conversion ladders, which we discussed in Part 3, are really healthcare premium protection plans in disguise. By converting money in your 60s, you create a clean source of funds for your 80s. The best software visualizes this trade-off. It shows lifetime IRMAA surcharges paid. You can toggle a scenario, convert aggressively versus do nothing. The software might show, Scenario A, no conversion, total lifetime IRMAA penalties, equals $45,000. Scenario B, conversion total lifetime IRMAA penalties equals $12,000. That is a $33,000 savings just by managing your brackets. The next frontier. We have now built a fortress. We have protected your portfolio from market crashes. Part 1. We have optimized your taxes. Part 3. We have secured your Social Security. Part 6. We have hedged your healthcare inflation and dodged the IRMAA cliff. Part 8. Technically, you are set. You are going to be fine. But retirement isn't just about you not running out of money. For many, it is about what happens to the money that is left over. It is about the legacy, the kids, the charity, the empire. But there is a new problem. The death tax rules have changed. The stretch IRA is dead. If you leave a massive traditional IRA to your children, you might just be handing them a massive tax bomb that explodes in their highest earning years. In Part 9, we are going to enter the legacy dashboard. We are going to look at estate planning features. We will debate die with zero versus dynasty wealth. And I will show you why your children might actually hate you for leaving them $1 million in the wrong type of account. See you in the next video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The generosity trap. Welcome back. In Part 8, we secured your health. Now we face the final frontier, your death. Most parents have a simple, noble goal. I want to leave $1 million to my children. They imagine their kids receiving a check for $1 million and buying a house. But if that $1 million is sitting in the wrong account type, you are not leaving them a gift. You are leaving them a tax grenade. Because of a piece of legislation called the Secure Act and its sequel Secure 2.0, the rules of inheritance have been rewritten. The stretch IRA, the strategy where your child could slowly withdraw that money over their lifetime, is dead. Now, if you leave a traditional IRA to your adult child, the IRS demands that the entire account be emptied within 10 years. This creates a tax bomb. Imagine your daughter is 45. She is a successful lawyer earning $200,000 a year. She is already in a high tax bracket. Suddenly, you die and leave her a $1 million traditional IRA. She has to withdraw that $1 million over 10 years. That adds roughly $100,000 of taxable income on top of her salary every single year. This pushes her into the highest federal tax bracket, 37%, and likely triggers the net investment income tax, 3.8%. Depending on her state, she could be losing 50% of your hard-earned legacy to the government. She receives $1 million, but she only keeps $500,000. Standard retirement calculators do not show this. They just show ending portfolio balance, $1 million. They don't show the net to heirs number. The best tools, the prosumer class, have a legacy dashboard, and they allow you to engineer a way out of this trap. The 3 legacy buckets. To evaluate a tool's estate planning capability, you need to see if it distinguishes between the 3 types of inheritance dollars. The tax bomb dollar, traditional IRA/401k as we discussed. This is the worst asset to leave to a high-earning heir. It is fully taxable at their ordinary income rate. The tax-free dollar, Roth IRA, this is the gold standard. Your heir still has to empty the account in 10 years, but the withdrawals are 100% tax-free. $1 million inherited is $1 million kept. The stepped-up dollar, taxable brokerage, this is the hidden gem. If you bought Apple stock in 1990 for $10,000, and it is worth $1 million when you die, your heirs get a step-up in basis. Their cost basis becomes $1 million. They can sell it the next day and pay 0 capital gains tax. What to look for? The net to heirs metric. When you open the estate tab of a tool like Bolden, Maxify, or Prolana, look for a metric called estimated net legacy. This is not just the gross value of your portfolio at age 95. It is the after-tax value in the hands of your specific beneficiaries. A robust tool allows you to input your children's approximate tax brackets. You can say, Child 1 earns $50,000, low bracket, and Child 2 earns $250,000, high bracket. The software then allows you to run a beneficiary optimization scenario. It might suggest, leave the Roth IRA to the high-earning child to avoid taxes, and leave the traditional IRA to the low-earning child, who will pay less tax on the withdrawals. Or more commonly, it will validate the strategy of spending the IRA. The strategy? Die with zero, sort of. This brings us to the philosophical battle. Die with Zero versus Dynasty Wealth. Die with Zero, popularized by Bill Perkins, argues that the utility of money declines with age. Giving your 55-year-old child money is less impactful than giving your 30-year-old child money. The best tools allow you to model inter vivos gifts during life. You can set up a gifting flowchart. Scenario A. Keep the money until death. Result: heirs get $1 million, after tax $600,000, in the year 2055. Scenario B. Gift $18,000 a year, the annual exclusion limit, to each child starting now. The software simulation shows the compound impact. By giving $18,000 now, you remove that money from your estate, lowering your future estate tax. Your child invests that $18,000 in a Roth IRA today. The software projects the growth of their portfolio. Often, the family net worth, your assets plus children's assets, is significantly higher in Scenario B because you moved the capital out of your inefficient tax environment and into their efficient one earlier. If a tool cannot model annual gifting and its impact on your long-term solvency, it is missing the most effective estate planning lever you have: the Roth conversion deathbed play. There is another advanced maneuver that only pro-tier software can visualize: the deathbed conversion. If you are in a lower tax bracket than your heirs will be, the software can mathematically prove that you should pay the taxes for them. You convert your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA in your 70s and 80s. You pay 22% or 24% tax. You leave them a tax-free Roth. If you hadn't done this, they would have paid 37% tax. You effectively engaged in tax arbitrage across generations. Look for a Roth Conversion Explorer that allows you to set the target tax bracket, not just based on your life, but based on the heir's tax bracket. If the software says stop converting at the 24% bracket, but you know your heirs are in the 37% bracket, you can override the tool to convert up to the 35% bracket. You are paying more tax now to save the family money later. This is dynasty planning. The estate tax alarm. For the mass affluent, the federal estate tax, currently kicking in at over $13 million per person, is a non-issue. But this limit is set to sunset, drop by roughly half, in 2026. Furthermore, many states like Massachusetts, Oregon, Washington, have their own estate taxes with much lower thresholds, sometimes as low as $1 million. A California resident has different estate concerns than a New York resident. The best tools have a state estate tax engine. If you live in Oregon and have $2 million, you might owe the state over $100,000 just for dying there. The software will flag this liability. It allows you to model, what if we move to Florida at age 80? Suddenly, that $100,000 liability vanishes from the legacy dashboard. The software highlights the cost of dying in your specific zip code. The trust flow chart. Finally, we need to talk about control. If you are leaving money to a spendthrift child, or a child with a rocky marriage, you don't want to give them cash. You want to leave it to a trust. While financial planning software is not legal software, it won't draft the trust for you. The best tools allow you to model trust funding. You can simulate, at death, 50% of assets go to spousal trust, 50% go to bypass trust. This is critical for couples with over $13 million, or the future lower limit. It ensures you capture the estate tax exemption for both spouses. If your tool simply dumps everything to the spouse without asking about trusts, it is oversimplifying the tax reality of high net worth families. The end of the road. We have covered it all. From the accumulation phase to the decumulation phase. From tax optimization to healthcare hedging. From investment location to estate liquidation. You now know what to look for. You know that average returns are a lie. You know that tax-blind tools are dangerous. You know that static withdrawals fail in bear markets. But knowledge is potential energy. It does nothing until it is converted into kinetic energy. You need to pick a tool. You need to input your data. And you need to build your plan. But which one? Bolden New Retirement? Maxify? Pralana Gold? Right Capital? In the final video, part 10, I am going to give you the final verdict. I will categorize these tools by user persona. If you are an engineer, I will tell you which one to buy. If you are a visual learner, I will tell you which one to buy. If you are a set it and forget it person, I will tell you which one to buy. And I will give you a 7-day, get it done checklist to go from worried to wealthy. This is the finish line. See you in the final video. Legal disclaimer. The following content is strictly for educational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, legal, or tax advice. The strategies, tools, and discussions presented herein are based on historical data, current market observations, and hypothetical scenarios which may not predict future results. Financial markets are volatile and subject to change. The narrator and creators of this content are not certified financial planners or registered investment advisors. You should assume that any mention of specific tools or software may involve potential conflicts of interest or affiliate relationships, although this series aims for objective analysis. Before making any financial decisions, you must conduct your own due diligence and consult with a qualified professional who understands your specific personal financial situation. The moment of truth. We have arrived. Over the last 9 videos, we have dismantled the lies of the financial industry. We have learned that averages are dangerous, that tax blindness is expensive, and that your house is a battery, not just a building. You now possess the knowledge of a sophisticated wealth manager. But knowledge without execution is just trivia. You are standing at the edge of a decision. You need to pick a tool. You need to build the plan. The market is flooded with options, but after rigorous testing, stress testing, and analyzing the actuarial engines beneath the hood, the field narrows down to 3 distinct contenders. These are not apps. They are life operating systems. Which one you choose depends entirely on how your brain works. The contender for the visual strategist, Bolden, formerly New Retirement. If you are the type of person who needs to see the future to believe it, your best option is likely Bolden. This platform has emerged as the market leader for the prosumer because it strikes the perfect balance between deep actuarial complexity and user experience. It does not look like a spreadsheet. It looks like a dashboard. Who is this for? This is for the visual optimizer. You want to toggle a switch that says Roth conversion and instantly watch a bar chart of your lifetime tax liability shrink by $150,000. You want the feedback loop to be immediate. The killer feature, the Explorer function. Most tools make you build a rigid plan. Bolden allows you to run side-by-side comparisons of Plan A, status quo, versus Plan B, optimized. You can see the jagged line of your income needs versus the smooth line of your guaranteed income. It highlights the gap in red. It is also the leader in community. They have built a massive ecosystem of users who share strategies. If you want to feel like you are not doing this alone, but you also don't want to hire a human advisor, this is the sweet spot. It handles the tax torpedo we discussed in part 6 and the asset location from part 5 with an intuitive interface that prevents you from getting lost in the math. The contender for the economist, Maxify. If you don't care about budgets but care deeply about standard of living, your tool is Maxify. Built by economist Lawrence Kotlikoff, this tool refuses to play by the standard rules. It doesn't ask, what do you want to spend? It tells you what you can spend. Who is this for? This is for the consumption smoother. If you are paralyzed by the fear of spending too much today, or conversely, if you are living like a miser when you have millions in the bank, this tool will fix your psychology. The killer feature, the discretionary spending floor. It calculates a single number, your annual safe spending capability, and holds it constant, adjusted for inflation. From now until age 100, it flattens the curve of your life. It is less about investment charts and more about lifestyle security. It is the most rigorous regarding Social Security optimization. If you want the mathematical truth about how much you can spend on a vacation today without stealing a single penny from your 90-year-old self, this is the engine you need. It is less pretty than Bolden, but the math is arguably more pure in an economic sense. The contender for the engineer, Pralana Gold. And then there is the nuclear option, Pralana Gold. This is not a web app. It is a hyper-advanced Excel overlay. It is dense, it is ugly, and it is incredibly powerful. Who is this for? This is for the engineer, the pilot, the controller. If you have a love/hate relationship with the cloud and prefer to keep your data on your own hard drive, this is your tool. The killer feature: granularity. As we discussed in Part 3, Prolana allows for line item tax entry that mimics the actual IRS Form 1040. It allows you to model specific depreciation schedules on rental properties. It handles the windfall elimination provision for public servants with better precision than almost anything else. It allows you to model sensitivities, unlike any other tool. You can create a matrix. If returns are X and inflation is Y and tax rates are Z, and it will output a 3D surface map of your probability of success. It is a steep learning curve, but for those who master it, it offers a level of control that makes professional advisor software look simplistic. The 7-day Get It Done protocol. You have your tool. Now you need a schedule. Most people buy the software, log in once, get overwhelmed, and cancel. Do not be that person. You are going to treat this like a 1-week boot camp. Day 1, the data dump. Do not try to plan today. Just aggregate. Log into every bank, every 401k, every credit card. Update your current balance and cost basis. Find your Social Security statement. Input the raw data. If the software produces a scary number, ignore it. Today is just about accuracy. Day 2, the expense audit. Split your expenses. Do not just put $5,000 a month. Create 2 columns: essential, heating, food, taxes, and discretionary, travel, gifts. Input them separately. Apply different inflation rates: 3% for essential, 5% for health. Now you have a baseline. Day 3, the stress test. Break the plan. Go into the Assumptions tab. Set inflation to 5%. Set market returns to -20% for the first 2 years. Kill the main earner at age 75. Look at the probability of success. If it is still above 75%, you are invincible. If it drops to 40%, you have work to do. Day 4, the tax hunt. Open the Roth Conversion Explorer. Run the optimization. Look for the tax valleys, the years before RMDs kick in where your income is low. Fill those valleys with Roth conversions up to the 12% or 22% bracket top. Record how much tax you save over your lifetime. This is your return on investment for the week. Day 5, the healthcare buffer. Check the IRMA brackets. Are you $1,000 over a cliff? Adjust your withdrawals. Check your long-term care plan. If you don't have insurance, create a segregated account in the software. A bucket of $200,000 that is excluded from your spending power, reserved for nursing care. Day 6, the legacy check. Look at the net to heirs number. If you are leaving a massive traditional IRA, toggle a gifting scenario. See what happens if you give $18,000 a year to your kids starting now. Does your own success rate drop? If not, consider executing the gifting strategy to save them taxes. Day 7, the policy statement. This is the most important step. The software is dynamic, but your principles should be static. Write down your guardrails. I will withdraw $6,000 a month. If the portfolio drops 20%, I will cut discretionary spending by $1,000. I will claim Social Security at 70, no matter what the news says. Print this out. Sign it. Put it in your desk. The final philosophy. We have covered an immense amount of ground, but I want to leave you with one final thought. The purpose of these tools is not to make you rich. You have already done the hard work of saving. That part is over. The purpose of these tools is to make you confident. The financial industry thrives on your anxiety. They want you to feel like the world is too complex to navigate alone. They want you to believe that a black swan event is around the corner, and only they can save you. But when you run the Monte Carlo simulation yourself, when you see that you survived the Great Depression scenario, when you see that you can afford the nursing home and the vacation to Italy, the anxiety evaporates. You stop checking the stock market every day because you know your plan accounts for volatility. You stop worrying about the next election because you have stress-tested tax hikes. You move from, I hope I have enough, to, I know I have enough. That shift is the ultimate retirement luxury, and it is available to you right now for the cost of a subscription and a week of focus. You are the CEO of your own life. It is time to take the controls. This has been a deep dive into the architecture of financial freedom. Thank you for watching. Now go build your plan.